There are moments in a judge's career when you realize you're not just ruling on a case. You're defending the entire judicial system from corruption. That moment came for me on a Thursday afternoon in September when Police Chief Raymond Garrett walked into my courtroom, looked me in the eye, and said, "Judge, you need to understand something. I run this city. You work for me. In this case, it's going to disappear or you're going to disappear." In 38 years on this bench, I faced angry defendants, desperate attorneys, and powerful people trying to use influence to avoid accountability. But I'd never had someone directly threaten me in open court. Never had someone so boldly declare that they controlled the judicial system. And I'd certainly never had a sitting police chief tell me he'd make me disappear if I didn't follow his orders. What happened in the next 8 minutes shocked everyone in that courtroom and led to the biggest corruption scandal in Providence history. But before I tell you how I responded to Chief Garrett's threat, you need to understand what brought him to my courtroom in the first place. If you believe that corruption must be confronted regardless of who wields it, that no badge grants immunity from justice, that judges must defend the law even when powerful people try to corrupt it, hit that subscribe button right now, because what I did to Police Chief Raymond Garrett will remind you that some battles are worth fighting even when they read dangerous. The case had started 3 weeks earlier with what seemed like a routine traffic stop. Officer Jennifer Walsh, a 5-year veteran of the Providence Police Department, had pulled over a black Escalade for running a red light on Benefit Street. Standard procedure. She approached the vehicle and asked for license and registration. The driver was Marcus Chun, a 34-year-old software engineer with no criminal record. But what Officer Walsh saw in the back seat changed everything. 3 kilos of cocaine poorly concealed under a jacket. He claimed he'd never seen those drugs before. He said he'd borrowed the Escalade from his cousin that morning because his own car was in the shop. The Escalade belonged to his cousin, David Chun, and David Chun was Police Chief Raymond Garrett's nephew. Suddenly, what should have been a straightforward drug trafficking case became complicated. Marcus's attorney, a public defender named Sarah Martinez, filed motions claiming the drugs were planted. She submitted phone records showing Marcus had borrowed the car at 8 a.m. and the traffic stop occurred at 8:47 a.m. She argued there was no way Marcus could have known about drugs in a vehicle he'd been driving for less than an hour. The district attorney's office, under pressure from somewhere, offered Marcus a plea deal. Plead guilty to possession, get probation, no jail time. Marcus refused. "I didn't do this. I won't say I did." That's when things got strange. Officer Walsh was suddenly transferred to desk duty. Her personnel file, previously spotless, suddenly showed complaints about her performance. Anonymous complaints that appeared after she'd arrested Marcus Chun. Sarah Martinez received a phone call at her home late at night. A male voice dropped the planted evidence angle. "Accept the plea deal. Don't make this complicated." She reported it to the police. Nothing happened. Then the prosecutor handling the case, Jennifer Chun, no relation to Marcus, abruptly recused herself, citing potential conflicts of interest she wouldn't specify. The case landed on my docket for a preliminary hearing to determine if there was sufficient evidence to move forward to trial. That's when Police Chief Raymond Garrett made his appearance. The hearing was scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Thursday. Marcus Chun sat at the defendant's table with Sarah Martinez. The prosecutor's table was empty. The new prosecutor, still getting up to speed, wasn't present. But sitting in the front row of the gallery, in full dress uniform, was Chief Raymond Garrett, 62 years old, a 35-year police veteran, chief for the past 8 years. He wore his uniform like armor, his chest covered in commendations, service medals, valor citations, leadership awards. This was a man who'd built a career on appearing untouchable. But his presence in my courtroom was unusual. Chiefs don't attend preliminary hearings for drug cases. They have departments to run, press conferences to give, politicians to meet with. His being here sent a message. I just didn't know yet what that message was. "Your Honor," Sarah Martinez began, "before we proceed with the preliminary hearing, I need to bring something to the court's attention. My client, Marcus Chun, maintains his innocence. The drugs found in the vehicle belong to David Chun, the vehicle's owner. David Chun is the nephew of Police Chief Raymond Garrett, who is present in this courtroom today." She paused. "Your Honor, in the 3 weeks since my client's arrest, strange things have started happening. Officer Walsh, who made the arrest, has been transferred to desk duty. I've received threatening phone calls. The original prosecutor recused herself, and multiple witnesses who were present at the scene of the arrest have suddenly refused to speak with me, citing advice from the police department. I looked at Chief Garrett. His expression hadn't changed. Calm, confident, unmoved. Miss Martinez, those are serious allegations. Do you have evidence supporting this pattern of interference? Your Honor, I have Officer Walsh's transfer paperwork dated 2 days after the arrest. I have phone records showing calls to my personal cell phone from untraceable numbers. I have emails from witnesses stating they were advised not to get involved. And I have this. She held up a document. This is the vehicle registration for the Escalade. It shows David Chun as the owner. This is David Chin's arrest record. He has 2 prior convictions for drug trafficking. And this is a Providence Police Department memo marked confidential that somehow found its way to my office. It shows that David Chun has been a confidential informant for the department for the past 3 years, personally run by Chief Garrett. The courtroom erupted in whispers. I raised my hand for silence. Miss Martinez, how did you obtain a confidential police memo? It was left in my mailbox at the public defender's office, Your Honor. Anonymously. Someone inside the department wants this information public. I looked at the document. It appeared authentic. Police letterhead. Proper formatting. Chief Garrett's signature at the bottom. Chief Garrett, I said, you're present in this courtroom. Would you like to address these allegations? He stood slowly, and when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of 3 decades in law enforcement. Your Honor, I'm here as a concerned citizen and as the police chief who wants to ensure justice is served. David Chun was an informant. That's correct. But his status as an informant is irrelevant to this case. Marcus Chun was caught with 3 kilos of cocaine. The evidence is clear. Officer Walsh did her job. The fact that Marcus happens to be related to a former informant doesn't change the evidence. Former informant? Sarah Martinez jumped on the word. So David Chun is no longer an informant. Chief Garrett's jaw tightened. That's not relevant to these proceedings. Your Honor, Sarah continued, I believe it's very relevant. I believe David Chun was using his cousin's vehicle to transport drugs. I believe when Officer Walsh pulled over that vehicle and found the drugs, she unknowingly busted the nephew of the police chief. And I believe everything that's happened since, the transfer, the threats, the pressure, has been about protecting David Chun and, by extension, protecting Chief Garrett from the scandal of having a drug trafficking nephew who was also a police informant. She turned to face the chief directly. I believe Chief Garrett has been running protection for his nephew, allowing him to deal drugs under the cover of being an informant. And when my client innocently borrowed that vehicle, he became the fall guy for charges that should be filed against David Chun. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Sarah Martinez had just accused the police chief of corruption in open court. Chief Garrett's face turned red. Your Honor, this is outrageous. Miss Martinez is making wild accusations without evidence. She's trying to create reasonable doubt by attacking me personally. I demand that you sanction her for this conduct and proceed with the hearing based on the actual evidence, not conspiracy theories. I looked at Sarah. Miss Martinez, do you have evidence that Chief Garrett has been protecting his nephew? Or is this speculation? Your Honor, I have circumstantial evidence that forms a pattern. I have David Chin's conviction history. I have the confidential memo. I have the suspicious timing of Officer Walsh's transfer. I have the threatening phone calls and witness intimidation. Individually, these might be coincidences. Together, they form a picture of corruption and cover-up. I turned to Chief Garrett. Chief, where is David Chin now? Has he been arrested in connection with these drugs? No, Your Honor. There's no evidence connecting him to the drugs found in Marcus Chin's possession. The vehicle is registered to him. The drugs were in his vehicle. That seems like prima facie evidence. The vehicle was borrowed by Marcus. That makes Marcus responsible for anything found in it. Even though Marcus borrowed the vehicle less than an hour before being pulled over. Even though David Chun has 2 prior drug convictions. Chief Garrett's voice hardened. Your Honor, I didn't come here to be interrogated. I came here to ensure justice is served. Marcus Chun was caught with drugs. That's the only relevant fact. I leaned back. Something was wrong here. The pieces didn't fit. A software engineer with no record suddenly caught with $300,000 worth of cocaine in a vehicle he borrowed that morning, a vehicle owned by the police chief's nephew who had a trafficking prior. An officer who made the arrest suddenly transferred. A public defender receiving threats. Miss Martinez, I said, I'm going to grant your motion for a continuance. I want the district attorney's office to investigate these allegations before we proceed. I want to know why Officer Walsh was transferred. I want to know about those threatening phone calls. And I want to know where David Chun is and why he hasn't been questioned about drugs found in his vehicle. That's when Chief Garrett stood up and made the biggest mistake of his career. Judge Caprio, you're making a mistake, he said. His voice was cold, threatening. This case moves forward today. You don't have the authority to launch investigations into police department personnel decisions. You're overstepping, Chief Garrett. I have every authority to ensure that cases in my courtroom aren't tainted by external pressure or corruption. Sit down. He didn't sit down. Instead, he stepped forward past the gallery railing, approaching the bench. My bailiff, Officer D'Angelo, moved to intercept him, but Chief Garrett held up his hand. Judge, you need to understand something. His voice was low, but carried through the silent courtroom. I run this city. The police department answers to me. The mayor listens to me. The city council respects me. You're an elected judge in a municipal court. You work for the city, which means you work for me. The room went silent. Chief Garrett continued, unaware of how badly he was burying himself. This case gets resolved today. Marcus Chun pleads guilty to possession, gets probation, and this all goes away quietly. Officer Walsh stays on desk duty because I say so. The investigation you're talking about doesn't happen, and everyone moves on. He leaned forward, his hands on the bench in front of me. Because if you continue down this path, Judge, if you keep pushing this, things are going to get very difficult for you. Cases can be filed. Allegations can be made. People can lose elections. Do you understand what I'm saying? I understood perfectly. The police chief of Providence was threatening me in open court, promising consequences if I didn't drop my inquiry into his corruption. I stood up slowly. Chief Garrett, did you just threaten me in my own courtroom? He smiled confidently. I'm giving you reality, Judge. I'm telling you how things work in Providence. You want to keep your position, want to avoid problems. You work with me, not against me. Officer D'Angelo, I said, my voice calm, but carrying absolute authority. Arrest Chief Garrett immediately. The bailiff froze. Your Honor, you heard me. Chief Raymond Garrett is under arrest for intimidation of a judicial officer, obstruction of justice, and criminal contempt of court. Take him into custody now. The courtroom exploded. Chief Garrett's face went from confident to shocked. You can't arrest me. I'm the chief of police. You were the chief of police. Right now, you're a defendant. Bailiff, if he resists, call for backup from the state police. This is not a Providence police matter anymore. Officer D'Angelo, after 38 years of watching me work, trusted my judgment. He approached Chief Garrett. Sir, I need you to put your hands behind your back. Chief Garrett looked around wildly, perhaps expecting his officers to rush in and save him. But the only police in the courtroom were my bailiff, a state trooper providing courthouse security, and Chief Garrett himself. This is insane. Judge Caprio, you're finished. You have no idea what you've just done. I know exactly what I've done. I've arrested a corrupt police chief who just threatened a judge to cover up his nephew's drug trafficking. Officer D'Angelo proceeded. The bailiff handcuffed Chief Garrett. The sight of Providence's police chief in full dress uniform with all his commendations being handcuffed in a municipal courtroom was surreal. Chief Garrett was still yelling as they led him away. You'll regret this. I have friends. I have power. This won't stand. You're making the biggest mistake of your career. The biggest mistake of my career would be letting you threaten me and doing nothing about it. The biggest mistake would be allowing corruption to intimidate the judicial system. I'm not making that mistake. The door closed behind him, muffling his protests. I turned to the state trooper providing security. Trooper Michaels, I need you to contact the Rhode Island State Police immediately. Tell them I've arrested Police Chief Raymond Garrett for intimidating a judicial officer. I need state police detectives here within the hour to take custody and begin a formal investigation. Trooper Michaels, still in shock, nodded and pulled out his radio. I looked at Sarah Martinez and Marcus Chun. Mr. Chun, your case is continued pending investigation. You're released on your own recognizance. Miss Martinez, compile everything you have, phone records, witness statements, that confidential memo, everything, and turn it over to the state police when they arrive. Yes, Your Honor. Don't thank me yet. If Chief Garrett was telling the truth about his connections, we've just kicked a hornet's nest. But if he was lying and running a bluff, We've just exposed corruption that needed to be exposed. Either way, we're going to find out. I looked at the gallery at the 50 people who had just witnessed everything. What you saw here today cannot leave this courtroom yet. Chief Garrett threatened a sitting judge and obstructed justice in open court. Those are serious crimes. But until the state police complete their investigation, I'm ordering everyone here not to discuss this publicly. If word gets out too soon, evidence might disappear. Witnesses might be threatened. Co-conspirators might flee. Do you all understand? Heads nodded. Court adjourned. The gavel fell. Within 2 hours, the Rhode Island State Police had detectives in my chambers taking my statement. I told them everything. Chief Garrett's presence at the hearing, Sarah Martinez's allegations, the threats, his statement that he ran the city and that I worked for him, his promise that things would get difficult if I didn't comply, his nephew's history and status as an informant. Lieutenant Frank Morrison, the lead detective, said carefully, "You understand that arresting a sitting police chief is going to create massive blowback. The Providence Police Department isn't going to take this quietly. Lieutenant, he threatened me in open court. He attempted to obstruct justice. He tried to use his position to force me to dismiss a case against his nephew. What was I supposed to do? No, sir, you did exactly the right thing. I'm just warning you that this is going to get messy before it gets better." Within 24 hours, the story broke. News channels ran with it. Providence Police Chief arrested by municipal judge. The Providence Fraternal Order of Police issued a statement calling my actions a politically motivated attack on law enforcement. The mayor expressed shock and concern but refused to comment on an ongoing investigation. Then the dam broke. Officer Jennifer Walsh, the cop who had been transferred after arresting Marcus Chun, came forward. She told state investigators that Chief Garrett had personally ordered her transfer, telling her to forget about the Chun arrest. She revealed that David Chun had been dealing drugs for years under the protection of being a confidential informant. And Chief Garrett had been covering for his nephew, allowing him to operate with impunity. 2 other officers came forward with similar stories. Garrett had been running a protection racket for his nephew and several other informants who were actually just dealers paying him for immunity. The confidential memo that mysteriously appeared in Sarah Martinez's mailbox? It came from Officer Walsh, who'd copied it before being transferred, knowing it might be destroyed. Within a week, state investigators had enough evidence to charge Chief Raymond Garrett with racketeering, drug trafficking, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, and corruption of a public official. Federal prosecutors got involved. The FBI opened a civil rights investigation, and Marcus Chin's charges were dismissed entirely. 2 weeks after his arrest, Raymond Garrett appeared before Judge Patricia Matthews in Superior Court for his arraignment. He was no longer in uniform. He wore an orange jumpsuit. His commendations and medals were gone. He looked small, diminished, nothing like the powerful figure who had walked into my courtroom and threatened me. Judge Matthews set his bail at $500,000 cash. He couldn't make it. Raymond Garrett, who'd run the city and had connections, sat in a jail cell awaiting trial. His arraignment lasted 15 minutes. His fall from power took less than 3 weeks. 8 months later, Raymond Garrett pleaded guilty to multiple corruption charges. He was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. In his allocution, he said something I'll never forget. "Your Honor, when I walked into Judge Caprio's courtroom that day, I believed I was untouchable. I'd been a cop for 35 years, chief for 8. I'd built relationships with politicians, judges, prosecutors. I thought I was above accountability. When Judge Caprio started asking questions I didn't want him to ask, I got angry. I made a threat. I told him he worked for me. That was the moment my career ended. Not when I started protecting my nephew. Not when I took money to look the other way. The moment I threatened the judge in open court, believing my badge would protect me from consequences. Judge Caprio taught me something that day. No one is above the law. Not police chiefs, not powerful officials, no one. 3 years after Garrett's conviction, I received a letter from Officer Jennifer Walsh. "Dear Judge Caprio, I wanted to update you on what's happened since you arrested Chief Garrett. The Providence Police Department underwent a complete restructuring. The new chief, Chief Maria Santos, implemented anti-corruption protocols, whistleblower protections, and civilian oversight. The culture has changed. Officers who were afraid to report corruption now feel protected. The department is rebuilding trust with the community. But more importantly, I wanted to thank you personally. When Chief Garrett transferred me for doing my job, I felt powerless. I'd followed every procedure correctly. I'd done everything right, and I was being punished for it. When you stood up to him, when you refused to be intimidated, when you arrested him despite his threats, you showed me that the system can work. That judges exist to protect justice from corruption. That standing up to power, even when it's dangerous, is possible. I'm back on patrol now. I'm a training officer teaching new recruits about integrity, accountability, and the importance of doing the right thing even when it's hard. I tell them about what you did, about how you defended the judicial system from a corrupt chief, about how you risked your career to ensure justice was served. You saved my career that day, but more than that, you restored my faith that the system is worth serving. Thank you. Respectfully, Officer Jennifer Walsh, Providence Police Department. I kept that letter, not because I needed validation, but because it reminded me why I'd made the decision I made. When Chief Raymond Garrett threatened me in my courtroom, I had a choice. I could have backed down, continued the cases he demanded, avoided the confrontation. It would have been easier, safer, but it would have sent a message that corruption wins, that threats work, that powerful people can intimidate the judicial system. Or I could stand up to him, risk the political blowback, face the possibility that maybe he really did have enough power to destroy me. It was the harder choice, but it was the only choice consistent with the oath I had taken 38 years earlier. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel. Share it with anyone who believes that corruption must be confronted, that badges don't grant immunity to commit crimes, that judges must defend justice even when threatened by powerful officials. Raymond Garrett thought he ran the city. He thought his badge made him untouchable. He thought threatening a judge would make his problems disappear. He was wrong about everything. In my courtroom, no one is above the law. Not defendants, not police officers, not even police chiefs. When he threatened me, I had him dragged out in handcuffs, not because I'm brave or heroic, but because defending the integrity of the judicial system is the most fundamental responsibility a judge has. Court adjourned.